Hey, welcome to the Travel Ones podcast. Today, my guest is Clark Gamblin. This could be a fun one. He is a physician, not a doctor. Like, try to mix it up a little bit there for you, Clark. But you're going to be doing 7 marathons, which is ridiculous, in 7 straight days, which is ridiculous, but on all 7 different continents. Want to give us a little background on how that started?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show, Peter. I am a surgeon. I work at Frederick the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. I was a runner. I ran in medical school, got away from it for a while, and then began to run again 6 or 7 years ago. Really kind of coincided with a diagnosis of cancer that I battled myself, but ran the 6 major marathons of the world. And so those are Chicago and Boston and New York.
We'll go.
And then they're also Berlin, London, and Tokyo. Now, I ran those 6 marathons over the course of 5 years. And so that's a little different than what we're thinking about and what we're going to talk about this morning. But all the same, when I finished, I started thinking about what am I going to do next? And a friend of mine sent me this clip, said, take a look at this, man. And I read about this and I just couldn't stop thinking about it.
Stuck
I
in
just
your
kept
head.
thinking, this is amazing. And so it is a race that runs a marathon on each of the continents on 7 consecutive days. So the race will start when we start running in Antarctica. We'll start the clock and we'll have 168 hours to finish a little over 180 miles. And the World Marathon Challenge is the name of the group that's taking care of the logistics, because you can imagine that would just
Yeah.
possible for an individual to try to work out.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, more so, it'd be easier today with the advent of the internet, but still, I mean, that's a lot of logistics.
Yeah, it's about 60 hours on the plane that week,
My God.
and there's 68 runners in the group now, and so we're thrilled about it. They've done it 8 times, so there's about
Okay.
2,000 people or so that have done this, and so I'm excited to take it on as a challenge and to really try to raise awareness about testicular cancer. That's the cancer that I battled, and that I'm very very grateful to be cancer free and cured of, but also just to inspire people. I think far too often when we think about
Yeah.
what we want to do with our lives and what kind of goals we want to make, we kind of make really kind of easy ones. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is we're not going to have to stretch too much. And when I read about this, I just became convinced that doing it would change me. It would help me. It would make
Yeah.
me more diligent, more develop my grit, whatever it
Gratefulness.
is. It would
Yeah.
just help me to do and to stretch a little bit. And so, fortunately, my wife Jan signed off. I think she thought it was a little crazy. She's not a runner at all. She's the photographer, the cheerleader, all those things. But she was like, "Are you sure it's safe?" And I said, "Yes, I'm 100% sure it's safe." And she said, "Well, then I would be thrilled to help you do." Having a good time with the Testicular Cancer Awareness
Yeah.
Foundation and raising awareness about that disease.
No, the one thing I can tell you about testicular cancer is it affects all ages. My nephew was in his early to mid 20s and he got diagnosed with testicular cancer and he's cancer free now. But I mean, he was like 23 or 24.
Yeah, it's the number one cancer, Peter, in males age 15 to 45.
That's crazy.
So it's the most prevalent cancer. And the crazy thing is, too, is that the lifetime risk of developing testicular cancer is 1 in 250 men. And
Wow.
that seems very, very high. When you think about how many thousand men you know or I know,
Yeah.
you say, I don't know 10 people that have had testicular cancer. And it's largely, I think, because men are
They ain't gonna talk about it.
super private about their health and they don't. And I was very private about it too. I didn't really share it until I got ready to run this race. Even as a physician, right? I'd see patients every day in my clinic that had cancer, but I resisted saying, "Oh,
I'm a
you're having
survivor.
a day. I've had scans." I mean, everybody's journey is different, and I never wanted to make someone feel like I knew what they were dealing with, because every path is unique.
Yeah.
So I was very careful about that. Now my patients are coming in, having seen about the race. They're wondering if should this guy really be my doctor? He seems a little
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know about this, but there's a lot of questions, and I've had a lot of patients now come in and say, "No, Dr. Galen, I've known you for almost 10 years. I had no idea you were going through that." And I mean, it's been special, for me to connect with patients and to practice what I preach. I mean, I've told a lot of patients, don't worry about your cancer. That doesn't change anything. Or don't try not to live scan to scan, worrying about the next scan. Try to live every day as a gift. And I had to do that. So I get it.
It's interesting you said all that because I have hearing aids and I've had them for 10 years, 11 years. I found out I was hard of hearing and with 40% loss in one ear and 50% in the other. And so I have them in and I just forget about them. And because of this show, I started talking about it to other, I actually, one of my old guests, I recommended them because she was like, I have a hard time. And I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah.
Interesting
I
now
mean,
that you get
when I
care.
talk to patients, sometimes they'll tell me their cancer history, and it
Yeah.
used to be, I'd say, yeah, have you ever had cancer before? And they'd say, oh, I had a little skin cancer here. I had testicular cancer. I'd write it down. Now they say, oh, I had testicular cancer. Oh, you had testicular cancer. And
Yeah.
they're like, God seems really excited about the fact that I had, a 95% curable cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, even Lance Armstrong, you remember, had brain mets, and they, had to take some spots out of his brain, and it went on to perform at an incredibly high level. So, I mean, and it's been cancer free since.
Yeah.
So it's a phenomenal result to the chemotherapy and surgery. And so the real word is to say early detection matters because it's a curable problem, and so we want to get that word out, obviously.
What are the symptoms of testicular cancer?
Yeah, they're not really symptoms per se, other than feeling a mass. And so, I had just run the Boston Marathon and I felt a mass and I thought, this is probably nothing. It's probably what we would call a varicocele, just a little blood vessel malformation. But I didn't ignore it. And I quickly said, oh, I should get this checked out. And I got an ultrasound. That's all you need. It's just a simple ultrasound. And then they said, this is a solid mass. So I got a scan. And before I knew it, within a week, I was in an operating room that I had worked in for the last 10 years
Yeah.
with the staff that
Knew you
works
well.
there,
Yeah.
taking care of me. It was really awkward, Peter. I hadn't shared this with anybody, but
That's
when
gotta
I
be
went in the operating room, I'm on this, gurney, and all the staff know me, and they're, Dr. Gamblin, good morning, good morning. Most of them call me Clark. I really prefer that, but they would say, good morning, Clark. And so I'm trying to kind of ease over onto the operating table, this little skinny table, right? And I've never stretched out on it before. And this lady is putting the squeezers on my legs, and I know her, and she says, Dr. Gamblin, you got some nice looking legs. And I said, are you hitting on me right now? You're about to
right.
operate on my privates. And she said, kinda. And I mean, everybody laughed. It cut the tension. It was
Yeah.
perfect time. But yeah, it was weird. It was really strange to be a patient all of a sudden. Outpatient surgery, not a big operation. I went home the
Yeah.
same day. I remember getting home that evening and even telling my kids, like, hey, let's go eat somewhere. And my sister was there and she was just like, we're gonna go out to eat? You just
Yeah.
had surgery. And I said, yeah. I mean, it's important my kids don't see me as, wilting or frail. I need to. So we went and ate hibachi that night, the night I had surgery, and just tried to move on. And even when I told my kids were like, Dad, you don't seem afraid, you don't seem scared. And I said, I am definitely not. And they said, well, if you're not worried, we won't worry.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's what you want as a parent. You want your kids to
Yeah.
be able to draw strength from your example. And that's what I took it as. And that was really a testament really to just my faith and my family and my friends. I mean, those three things. I didn't build a foundation in the middle of a storm. I really, as a young person, built a lot of strong faith in my life, and my family is super strong. And so when a storm like that came for me, I wouldn't say it was a nothing, but it was a test, but I was ready for it. And I was very grateful for all that time I had invested in what I believed in and in my family and friends because they rallied around me big time.
Well, I'm curious, because I don't know about anything about testicular cancer and it's curable. Uh, did being in better shape help?
I think it always helps. So
Yeah.
anytime, if you see patients that have, if they're overweight or they have diabetes that they could control, or
Yeah.
they have, they're smokers and such, all those kind of things affect wound healing. They affect our recovery. They increase our risk of blood clots after surgery, all those kind of things. So I think being fit for, in your
In
lifestyle
general, yeah.
in general matters, but for testicular cancer per se, no. I don't think it particularly helped. It would have been outpatient either way.
Okay.
Um, but from the surgery itself, there were really no limitations on physically what I could do afterwards. Afterwards, I was actually signed up to run the New York Marathon, and I took some
Of
chemo,
course
and
you were.
my platelet count went down, and I was thinking, maybe this is dumb, right? I was like, maybe I could bleed into my knees or So I called my medical oncologist. I was like, "Hey, Deepak, listen, it's Clark. Hey, listen, I'm signed up to run the New York Marathon, and my platelet count's not normal, my white count's not normal, and I just don't want to do anything stupid. So, like, you just tell me what I should do. I will say I was a really good patient. I did what they told me to do. I didn't run
Yeah.
around trying to make up my own algorithm." And he goes, "Well, you can run it, but you'll feel horrible." And I go, "Well, then I'm definitely going to do it."
Either way, you're gonna feel
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to sit at home and feel horrible. So
Yeah.
off I went to New York, and it was awesome. I mean, the New York Marathon's amazing. It runs through all the boroughs,
Yeah.
and it was a fabulous day, and so impressed by that marathon. But
How do
yeah,
they get you
so
over to
it
Staten
hasn't
Island?
drawn any limitations on me, that's for sure.
How do they get you over to Staten Island? Is there a bridge?
The ferry, you go over on the ferry. Everybody goes on the ferry early that morning.
Okay.
So it's a middle of the night kind of wake up and start over the on the ferry to start the race.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So a 60-hour flight to South Africa. I mean, just the jet lag. I mean,
Yeah. I'm not sure about jet lag,
okay.
Pete.
Help me out.
I don't know. I mean, because I'm never going to be in one place long enough to try to acclimate to their time zone.
Yeah.
You
So
know
are
what
you
I'm
just
saying?
gonna stick to your time?
I think, yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna. Well, somebody laughed and said they'd done it before. I said, "Man, I didn't sleep at all that week." I just like it was just like I was running on adrenaline. But I'm going to Cape Town a couple of days before,
Okay.
so I'm kind of acclimate to Cape Town time over about a 5 day period, and then I'll fly from Cape Town down to Antarctica, run the race, and Jan, my wife, will stay in Cape Town. And the second day, I'll come back to Cape Town and run the second race in Cape Town,
Okay.
and then she'll come home. And then I'll go from Cape Town to Perth to Dubai to Madrid to Bruges to Miami, and she'll be in Miami. So yeah. So all those times of flying, with the exception of flying to Cape Town, are all about
Yeah, that
eight
first
hours.
one.
They're about 8 hours, and so I'll just sleep when I can on the plane. The plane, I haven't seen it. I don't know exactly what it is. It's a military plane that flies us from Cape Town down to Antarctica,
Antarctica.
Nova,
Yeah, yeah.
and back.
Probably a
Um,
C-17.
Yeah, they put that on the ice field. They land that on the ice field, and then we
Yeah.
run like a 2.6 mile loop
10 times.
10 times.
I was gonna
Exactly.
say, I was gonna ask you that because I don't know. I don't think there's 26 miles of road on Antarctica.
No. But that's because of a couple of things. One, some of the people in the group are going to run half marathons.
Oh, I got you.
So they'll run five.
Yeah, yeah.
And with only 68 runners, building aid stations all along a 26-mile loop
In
would be
Antarctica?
yeah, it would be almost impossible. And so now they can have an aid station every 2.6 miles,
Yeah.
right? And a first aid, kind of tent there and everything for anybody that needs anything. Every 2.6 miles, they'll have an opportunity to help somebody if they need any kind of assistance or aid.
Are all the races going to be that 2.6 or
No, they're
just
all
Antarctica?
different.
Okay,
I think in Madrid we're running on a F1 track.
cool.
That'd be kind of cool. I'm
Pretty
gonna,
hot.
and it's slanted sometimes in those turns,
Yeah,
so I'm gonna
yeah.
try to stay way inside, and just stay down low. And I think we may run that
They're
one at
pretty.
night.
They're pretty flat though. I mean, because
Yeah,
I roller skated on the Long Beach F1 track, but
sure.
they try to keep it pretty flat because they
Good.
have such good turning. And same thing with well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've read this book called, I think it was called Running Around the World, that one of the ladies who
Uh,
ran it about 5 years ago wrote, and she was saying that she was a little concerned about that. It was a cool book. I bought this book. I read it in like 3 hours. I instantly DM'd her and said, like, "Hey, your book is like the gospel.
yeah,
Thank you. It saves me," because it had what was her warm up, what she packed, what did she wish
eating.
she
Yeah.
brought, everything. My coach sent me a note this morning after I ran in like the single degree weather here in Milwaukee, and I mean it's amazing. They can watch everything on these garments, right? I mean, he
Yeah. Your
like a
pace,
month
everything.
ago, yeah, a month ago, he sends me a message. He goes, "Hey, Clark, how you feeling?" And I go, "I'm feeling great." And he goes, "Well, I saw this morning about 5:15 in the morning. You stopped for like 7 minutes in your neighborhood and just didn't
Oh,
move." And I
Dunkin'
was like,
Donuts, man.
"Yeah." I said, "Well, that was the residents called me from the hospital. They had somebody sick. They couldn't figure it out. I had to stop and we had to go over a little bit of physiology lesson in somebody's
Yeah.
front yard." Um, so this morning he texted me and he's like, "Hey, listen, good morning run. I like the heart rate. We're tapering you right. Going to be pretty hot and humid on some of these races, you have access to a hot tub? And I was like, yeah, I got one in my backyard. And he goes, need you to get in it every day for at least 20 minutes. Just sweat it out in the hot tub. And I was like, that is an order I can do.
Yeah.
That is a running coach instruction that I'm like, I'm signing off on that one for sure. Yeah.
9-degree Milwaukee weather. Yeah, I can get in the hot tub.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a hot tub and soak for a little while, no big deal. But he's been great. Chris Pack is his name. And he's been a virtual coach for me. He's here in Milwaukee, but I've never met him face to face,
No.
but I probably communicate with him every day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's super vested in what we're doing. He even told me, he said, hey, the fee for the running in January, just donate it to the Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. We're just happy to be a part of what you're doing, man. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, to have someone. I was going to ask you about that because, like, you could be a runner, but you need somebody to tell you what your pace should be at, or where you need to be, or
Yeah. I mean, when I talked to him about it, I was like, hey, man, have you ever coached anybody doing this? He's like, absolutely not.
yeah. Well, I haven't met anyone that stupid yet.
Yeah, exactly. He goes, I have coached a couple of people that have run 50 or 100-mile kind of
Yeah, the
things.
ultras.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, this is an ultra. This is a 180-mile run. We're just going to divide it up over 7 days. It's a
Yeah.
it's a big ultra with nice breaks. Is the way I've kind of thought about it in my
and,
mind. Like,
and changing views.
yeah, and the plane that they used a couple years ago was the U2 World Tour plane.
Oh
So
wow.
the plane is like acclimated that we can all lay flat, but
Yeah.
there's at least the one they used then had kind of the front third of it was kind of some gathering area, and the back part of the plane was more
That's.
sleeping and recovery. And I've got some pneumatic boots that I can put on my legs to squeeze in between races while I rest.
I was going to ask you
And
about that too.
yeah, and then we spent a lot of time like, hydrating during training and getting your body able to eat a lot before you run a long way, and then eat again after you've run, because they'll serve food on the plane, but we can bring some food too. So I'll bring a lot of really carb rich, protein rich,
That's awesome.
dehydrated food I can just put hot water in and eat, and it's gonna be fun.
I wonder if it's going to be a little bit of a mental letdown when you get all done. You get home, you're like,
My wife asked me that. She was like, "Yeah, I mean, you're on your Instagram. I have this Instagram. It's T Clark Gamblin, and she said, I just put it up just for the race, and I put it up just a few months ago, and there's maybe almost 1,100 people that are watching it now, and so it's fun to get their encouragement or their insights about running, and I don't know what that Instagram, for example, does after the race. Probably nothing. I mean, the race is done, but I do think that there is a significant tail life on the race. And
yeah,
what I mean by that is, like, people are fascinated by the logistics. And one of my friends ran it about 5 years ago. He's the first insulin dependent diabetic to do it. And he said, Clark, when I got home over the next 5 years, I've spoken almost 100 times
yeah,
about the race. So everybody from a C-suite or a sales force to a high school graduation wants to hear about this 7 day, 7 race, 7 continent idea. And what did you learn about yourself?
yeah,
And where do you go when you need mental grit? Like, how do you really get there? And how do you put your mind in that right spot? He said, so your ability to raise funds for the Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation will exist long after the race.
yeah,
And so my goals were really to do two things, right? Raise awareness about this disease and inspire other people to be willing to risk more. And so, in some ways, after the race, those two goals still exist. So it won't be like I just say, cut, we're done. I'm going to enjoy sharing a lot about the week with others once I get back to.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. It's literally something you'll never undo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my brother took 4 or 5 months and through hiked the Appalachian Trail between
yeah,
college and dental school. My son just finished in college at Montana State. He's getting ready to do the same. Those are kind of life events that you get a chance. You're fortunate enough to be able to do. And I certainly consider this one of those. I mean, when I got ready to do it, I was talking to Janice, like, it's really expensive to run this race. And I mean, it's kind of last minute. And I said, I think I'm just going to ask corporate America if they won't like pay for it. I
kick
can
in.
pay
Yeah,
for the race, and then I can raise funds for the foundation, and 100% of the funds given to the foundation then would go directly to the foundation.
Right.
Wouldn't finance the race at all. Because I asked a few people about this, and some of them were like, "Oh, get a GoFundMe page and on Facebook, and then people can give $500, and it'll totally get you on your race." I'm like, I don't want people to give me their money to use for my race. I want them to give money to the foundation. And
Yeah.
so I was very fortunate that several family foundations and the Milwaukee Brewers and others just totally stepped up.
That's
The hospital I work at and just said, we think what you're doing is important. It's unique. It's global. It'll raise a lot of awareness, and we want to be a part of it. And I was like blown away. I mean, before I knew it, I had raised more than enough money to get on the plane, and print some merchandise and do some videography. It was pretty amazing.
that's so cool. And now
Yeah.
all the donations get to go right to the
Oh
Testicular.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Not a dime that anyone gives is going to pay for anything related. The race is almost separate. The race is over here as
Yeah.
a mechanism to raise awareness, and the foundation's over here, in need of support so that they can promote early detection. But also, to your point, when these kids get this disease, they're young families. They hit a financial wall. They need to bring their kids across the country sometimes to other centers that are more experienced. I mean, they need help. And so this foundation really exists to step in that gap and help them get where they need to be for their health and to help inform people about, their options as well.
It's cool you said that because I live in Los Angeles. So I mean, I have the world's greatest hospitals within, an hour drive.
Sure.
UCLA,
Yeah. You have a great one.
USC. I mean, they're all
Yeah.
here.
City of Hope, all, yeah, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you're in Milwaukee, and there's great facilities there. But like I talk to people because in my Western industry, I work rodeos and all that,
Hmm.
and they live in a town of 300 people, and like
Yeah.
the next town is 30 miles away, and I'm not talking a city, another town maybe. So like they have to, because like in Twin Falls, Idaho, and some of the central parts of Montana, they don't have facilities that
No, I
necessarily.
mean, the Montanans are going to Salt Lake City
Yeah.
a lot of times. I mean, Montana, Idaho, Nevada, a bunch of those states are all part of the catchment area for Salt Lake City for
Yeah.
their comprehensive cancer center. So you're absolutely right. And the burden of traveling
The
and
families. Oh my
staying
God.
in hotels and the people that provide for the family having to take time off. I mean, it's amazing the
Yeah.
financial burden. I was so blessed that I had not only a lot of medical insight, but I had the resources to do whatever I needed to do.
And you're right there, obviously.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, so it's very different.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people might forget about that part of it because,
100%.
I
Yeah.
God, I met this one kid and we were at a rodeo and I worked at Mid-States Fair in Madison, Wisconsin,
Oh,
but
nice.
I worked at a road. I'm trying to think where it was. It was in Gillette, Wyoming.
Huh.
And I was talking to this kid and I said, kid, he's 14, 15. I go, how many kids are in your school? He goes, the whole school? I go, well, yeah. I mean, he goes, well, we're K through 12, 48, maybe 46.
Yeah, they're playing like if they're playing football, they're playing like 7-man football or
Yeah, at
9-man
best.
football. They're
Yeah.
playing 11, and if you're a big kid and they play any sports, you better
You play
sign up or the
everything.
coach is going to come after you. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, I mean, I can't. My daughter went to high school with 2,800 kids.
Yeah, yeah, my kids have done that too, and so it is a completely different world. And things like testicular cancer, it has nothing to do with
Yeah,
genetic or I mean, it's going to affect kids in rural America. It's going to affect kids all over. And Kim Jones is the founder and CEO of the foundation. She lost her son to testicular cancer because of a late diagnosis. So
yeah,
she's incredibly motivated over these years to try to help other families realize that. Even Lance Armstrong said when he felt a mass, he thought it was nothing. He just blew it off
yeah.
because he's like, what could it be? I'm a healthy guy. Competing at a world class level, and people don't think about it being cancer.
Yeah.
I didn't really think it would be cancer. I thought it would not be, but I will say that I didn't ignore it. I mean, I went right after it. I was like, "There's something wrong." I think my wife was prepared for me to be a total basket case, to take care of. She was just like, we haven't been married long, and we just been married a couple of years, and I think she was she just knew me. We weren't married at the time, and I think she was prepared that I would be a horrible patient, and I was anything but. I mean, I was the ideal patient, and so she was like kind of blown away by that. I think she thought I was just going to be, really a project.
Well, you said you ran before, so I mean, I, long distance running in my world sucks. I mean, it's
It's
just
punishment in most sports, right? If
yeah.
you
I
you
mean,
cuss on the football team, the coach makes you run at the end, right? It's
my
not
wrestling
usually,
team, my
yeah,
my wrestling team ruined long distance running for me because if we did bad in a meet, the next day
yeah,
you'd be like, hey, maybe we need a longer warm up. Let's do the 2.5 mile start run. I'm like,
right,
really?
yeah. Yeah, in high school, I remember we used to all have to run the mile on Mondays, and that was supposed to deter you from misbehaving on the weekends.
Yeah,
And the backs had to run under this time, the
yeah,
linemen had to run under this time. But I never cared. I wasn't some big partier in high school, and B, the running thing was easy for me, so I laughed at that. But you're right, running is punishment in a lot of places, and about this is that running's not a solo adventure.
no,
Not it really isn't. People think it's like, but for me, it's been a coach guiding me, a wife cheering for me, my kids supporting me. I've spent some time talking to our dietitians at the hospital that I send all my cancer patients to say,
yeah,
hey, I want to make sure I don't want to drop any weight during my training. I want to build muscle, but I don't want to drop weight. Um, there's a physical therapist that's met with me for stretching and trying to avoid injury. And I told him, I said, I only got three goals. I want to get to the race without an injury. I want to semi enjoy the race. I don't have to love every minute, but I do want to, it's been a process. I spent almost a year working on this. And then three, I just want to finish, and the finish rate's incredibly high because, again, the
you have
people that
the
are selected out to do it are really serious about training. No one's going for PRs. No one's trying to, spend a lot of time on the track and get as fast as they can to run a really fast marathon. They do give an award for the fastest, I think the top three men and women that finish, but nobody cares about that at all. I told the coach, I said, if you told me that I could run them all in 5 hours, I'd sign with my own blood right now. That's not my goal at all, is to run fast. It's to run injury free and to, again, just
finish.
enjoy the process and reflect on, what my thinking is during it and what kind of my journey is, and journal some of that so that I can share that with other people and hopefully inspire some folks
Yeah,
too.
I think it's cool that you're going to videotape because I'm trying to imagine like if I were to do that, I'd be so focused on like having my time splits and just so I can be in shape so I can get there and finish. But all of a sudden you're like, holy shit. Hey, by the way, I'm in Antarctica. I'm in Cape Town. I'm in Madrid. I mean, all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm going to all these phenomenal places.
Sure.
I mean, not many people in the world have ever been on Antarctica.
That's exactly right. I mean, like people ask me which one you're looking the most forward to, and that's easily the one I'm the most forward
Yeah.
to. I mean, I've been on the other continents, and I've run on the other continents. I've been to Australia a few times. I've never run a marathon in Australia, but the other continents I've run marathons in, and so. But Antarctica is a special place, so I'm looking really forward to drinking
Yeah.
that in a little bit. We'll only be there probably about 8 hours total.
That's all
There's
you're going to want to
and
be
and
there.
then we'll be back on the plane. So so the jet lag thing is not necessarily going to grab me, I don't
Yeah.
think, but neither is the opportunity to really look around at all. I
That's what
mean,
you got to do, right?
that's the way it is. And sometimes, you go places. I was thinking about this morning in Antarctica when I was running. Sometimes you go places and you love where you are and you say, I want to come back here again someday, maybe. At
Yeah.
least I catch myself saying that. Like if
Sure.
I'm, in some tropical island, I'll be, this is beautiful, man. Maybe I'll bring the kids back here someday. I mean, like I'd love to come back here.
Yeah.
Antarctica's probably not like that. I don't. Like I think I'll go there and I'll say this is amazing, and I'll be like,
I'm out.
I'm never going to see this again.
Yeah.
And I usually don't think like that in my 50s. I think I got a lot of time. I might get back to everywhere I've been, but this place probably won't happen again for me. So I realize that.
It's funny you say I do that when I travel because I
Hmm.
travel I'm on the road about 120 days a year. But
Wow.
when I go, like I had to open up a store in Dickinson, North Dakota. Never been in North Dakota. I flew into Bismarck, the capital, and I was going to just drive over because the flight, anyways, it was like more than the flight to Bismarck, from Los Angeles. to get over to Dickinson because it's just a small town. So you have a prop plane and all that. I'm like, I'll just drive. And I'm like, well, I've never been here. I'm going to drive around a little bit. And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I went down to, I scheduled an extra day in. I drove down to Mount Rushmore, came up
Yeah.
through, drove through Sturgis on a non-bike weekend,
Sure.
which is just a small little quaint town on
Oh
50,
yeah, I've
50
driven
years
through it. I
ago.
know exactly what you're talking about, and Milwaukee is Harley Davidson, right? I
Yeah, oh
mean,
yeah, yeah. I've been to
yeah,
Milwaukee several times.
yeah. People don't. Some people think it's Sturgis for some reason. It's just some hill they ride up and down and
Oh
rally
no.
at. But the Davidson family is still
Yeah,
super present in Milwaukee. I know a bunch of them, so it's
yeah, Willie.
yeah,
Yeah, so
Willie.
but then I get into Dickinson and I took I ate lunch in Lemon, South Dakota.
Yeah.
But taking that time, like you said, it's like that's why I think it's gonna be cool that you have the videography because like when I go to work, I'm just going to work. Like you're going, you got something to focus on. Like I got 7 marathons in 7 days is just daunting, even if you were just staying in Milwaukee.
Well, it's a lot of running, it's going to be fun to break it up with the different places.
Yeah,
I think the group is super unique, that's running. There are about 16 Americans on the team, but there's people from all over. I mean, all over the world are
yeah.
all. I mean, you're got a really, really diverse team. When the registration form I had to fill out the other night
How many
was
different
like,
languages?
which languages do you speak?
Yeah,
How well would you say you speak English? You had to rank it like 1 to 10 or something. You're like, hey, I think I speak 10. Yeah, I'm 10. Good.
yeah,
Maybe a little Southern accent, but that's okay. But it's a super diverse group of people, and many of them are motivated for causes that they're
yeah.
running for. But those that aren't, there's nothing wrong with that either. They're motivated for other reasons, for their gratitude for their health or their gratitude for their families or whatever. So it's going to be a cool group of people, I think. I Googled a couple of them and looked up a couple of them, and I've connected with a couple of them on Instagram that I follow or they follow me. And so it's going to be cool because I think those will be connections, some of those connections that will last for a long time.
Now, you're gonna be it's gonna be is it gonna be live streamed?
They're going to live stream some of it, maybe some of the finishes or starts.
Okay.
They tried to live. We were on this call the other night, and one of the guys who's in charge of the group said, we thought about live streaming a couple of these races, and let me just tell you, when there's only 60 or something runners, and you live stream a race,
It's boring.
you'd rather watch the grass grow or the paint dry. I
Yeah,
mean, it's awful. And he said, so we will take clips, and we may live stream a start or two from a couple of
yeah,
the places. They have, the ability with their software that we'll have bibs on with numbers. And I was really kind of pumped. My number is 21. So 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents, number 21. I love it. But
yeah.
when they take all the pictures, then their software will then sort them into who it was,
Okay.
like the marathon races do. And then they'll be able to download and drop those pictures to us every day. So every day we'll be able to post tons of pictures from that day
Race. Yeah.
on our channels. Um, Antarctica is a little challenging, but we'll be back in Cape Town before we know it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's gonna be. What do you know the link for that live stream or?
I don't know it yet.
Okay.
I'll put it on the Instagram for sure
Perfect.
as soon as they provide it to us, but I don't know it.
So I'll make sure to have whatever links I can on my
That's awesome.
website and then on my
Yeah,
socials as well.
that's cool.
It's gonna be a fun trip, my friend.
It is. It's going to be amazing, I think.
God, I almost want to talk to you when you're done for just like a follow up.
Anytime, man. It'd be fun. I'd love to chat about it because I think there'll be all kind of crazy stories about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing. I don't. I mean, I'm in my 50s too, so like I'm super appreciative of every place I get to go. Like I go to Dallas, right, for work. I go twice a year. I'm there for a week, and I'm like, so I've gone to the JFK site and the
Sure,
six
I've been there. Yeah,
the six story book depository building museum. Did all that. And I'm
yeah.
like, one time I was like, it was in the summer, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the where they filmed Dallas, like South Fork Ranch.
I've
Growing,
been there.
yeah, and
I drove out there. Yeah.
I did too. So I took an extra day, and I was like a half day, and I went out there. And I'm sending. It was the day my daughter told me she was pregnant with my first
Ah,
granddaughter.
that's
So I'm
awesome.
literally at South Fork FaceTiming with my wife, and then my daughter's in Tennessee, and and I'm like, I'm gonna be a grandpa. And there's no one around. I'm out by the
Yeah.
backyard there. And then I get home and I post pictures of South Fork, and then I have friends that live in Dallas. And they're like, we've never been there. I'm like, you live a half hour away from there. They're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We never get over there. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I've lived places that I neglected to go see something or another in my own hometown, but in general, I try to drink all that in because I think it's important.
have you been over to the Dells?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's
I've
people.
walked to the Harley Davidson Museum, for example, about 35 times. I mean, like when somebody comes here that is not from here, I'm like, okay, there's a few things we need to do. We need to tour the breweries, right? We need to go walk through Pabst Brewery or Miller.
Yeah.
We need to go to Harley Davidson Museum. I mean, that's like a mecca of Milwaukee. You need to come during the summer, go to Summerfest. I mean, 2 week
Beer
long
Fest.
festival,
Yeah.
bigger than Jazz Fest in New Orleans, the largest outdoor music festival in the country
And
in Milwaukee.
we called it Beer Fest.
Yeah,
If you go in the second week, the ground is just saturated with
it
beer.
could that could be, or that could be any time during the summer. You're in Milwaukee, my friend. Be honest. They call it Polish Fest, Italian Fest.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, they just have a fest. They put fest at the end of anything the whole summer, and they just serve beer down there at the Summerfest grounds.
yeah.
But every musician you can name,
They've
has
been
been
there.
in
Yeah.
Milwaukee playing Summerfest, and so there's a lot of fun things to do here. But the Dells is amazing. I mean, the
Yeah.
Dells is a great, great place to get away and enjoy, just kind of unique topography and
Well,
hiking and
the
everything.
amphibian trucks just going on those,
Yeah,
the ducks.
yeah,
That's pretty cool. And then, I mean, you're
very
what,
cool.
45 minutes from Chicago.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, but
Yeah.
yeah, really close. We're about an hour from Madison, and maybe an hour and 10, hour and 15 from downtown Chicago.
Okay.
And I thought I moved here in 2010 from Pittsburgh, and I thought when I moved here that like, oh, pretty close to Chicago, we'll get down there a lot.
Yeah.
Man, not really. I mean, the sports teams here are great, the food's great, the music scene's great. Like, seldom do we go to Chicago. I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, I got more friends in Chicago that wind up calling me and saying, "Hey, we're coming up to Milwaukee this
Yeah.
weekend," or "Hey, we're Milwaukee. We're driving up to fly to Milwaukee." I'm like, what? So it's a great place to live. We've enjoyed it a lot.
It, it's 9 degrees outside right now. That's the only problem.
That's for sure. Summer is the best 10 days of the year in Milwaukee.
Dude, when I went to the Dells, I had just turned 21, and we went down to Rush Street in Chicago because you had to because I had just turned
Sure.
21, which is a long time ago. But then we went over to the Dells, and I came back, and they loved the mosquitoes there loved my sweet blood somehow.
Your blood type, yeah, they're ready for you, huh?
I joke, I tell people that the state bird of Wisconsin is a mosquito because they're
Oh,
huge.
that's funny, man. See, I mean, because it gets so cold here, it knocks them down. I mean, we don't have them really here in Milwaukee that bother us very much.
But at the Dells, they do with all the water in
Yeah,
the lakes.
yeah, amazing.
They destroyed me.
You gotta let me know when you come back to Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah. I have
We'll show you around. It'll be
been a
fun.
while. Been a while. Madison was probably like 9 years ago.
Hmm.
But that was a good horse show. So
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, it's been a fun journey, and I don't know what the next challenge will be. I did
that
actually
was my
send
last
a message.
question. What's
Yes,
next?
I sent a message to my friend that sent me this note and said, "Hey, look at what I'm doing it, man." And he's like, "Wow." I mean, I don't think he kind of kidded around when he sent me the
How
message
do you
saying we can
top
do
that?
this together. He didn't realize that I was really going to do it.
He'll
Most
never
of my
send you
friends
another
are like,
thing.
yeah, most of my friends are like, "Who does that?" And every now and then one kind of tactfully says, "Clark, how old are you again?" And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, 55. And they're like,
Old enough.
"Wow." I mean, wow. But no, like I said, the goals of it were really to inspire people and to raise awareness. So I'm planning on continuing those goals after the race.
How do
And
you top that?
yeah, I don't think you top it necessarily.
Seven
But
continents.
sharing the story about it raises awareness and trying to inspire people to say, "Hey, you should let your reach exceed your grasp sometimes." I think, you should play for a little bit more and not be so risk averse. Um, but I don't know. Who knows, man? I'm not even gonna theorize it. Give my wife chest pain if she heard me say something like that.
Exactly. No,
She's
that's
been
fine.
funny. Recently I said something on the air about how somebody's asking me like, what kind of music you listen to or what you listening to when you're running. You listen to music. And I was like, yeah, I usually listen to music. I said, but I've been listening to some books, and I called it books on tape. And then after I got off the program, Jan's like, Clark,
It's not a
you're
tape.
showing your age. It's not books on tape. They're audio books, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, they're kind of taped, right? I mean, they're taped. I mean,
They're recorded.
uh, okay, I give up. You're right. I sound old saying books on tape, but that is what I've done. Listen to a lot of audio tapes and a lot of music. I'll listen to music on the run. It's funny, 'cause, even Chris, my coach, can tell when I've listened to music or when I've listened to
Yeah.
uh, a book because and he was hounding me yesterday. He was like, "Listen now, tomorrow run slower, slow down,"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh
You
yeah,"
need
and
more
he's like,
Kenny
"Yeah."
G.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's like, we don't need to build any strength. We just need to shake your legs
Yeah.
and taper this down so that you feel like $1 million when you start. And I was like, gotcha.
So when you want to run fast, what do you listen to?
I listen to classic rock. So I listen to Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and Rolling Stones and all that kind of genre.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
Oh,
cool
good, man. Like I said, I'll try and stay in touch with you. I can,
for
I'll,
sure.
just to catch some stories, maybe and let it settle in for a little bit. So,
I love it. I,
and
I really appreciate you letting me join you today, Pete.
man, I can't wait to share this on my channel. It's awesome.
It'll be cool.
Why we do it. So, what's the Instagram page? It's T Clark.
T. Clark Gamblin, and just no spaces, no periods, just T. Clark Gamblin, and it's just got race information on there. It'll have everything from at least daily, updates on what the race is doing, but probably more than daily, and a lot of stuff on the story and such, and um, it's been a lot of fun.
And
I've enjoyed it.
we'll get the link for the donations as well.
100%. It's on the Instagram too. The
Okay.
pledge site is on the Instagram in the bio, and so people can click on there and very easily make donations. And I mean, I've been absolutely blown away by people's generosity. I mean, I got a call last week from a patient and a patient family. The patient had surgery 15 years ago and passed away. Probably maybe 10 years ago. And the family said, "Hey, we want to support your race." I said, "Oh, that'd be great. Click on the link." And they're like, "No, we want to sponsor your race." And I was like, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're mailing you a check for 20 grand." And I was just like, "You don't need to do that. I mean," and they were like, "No, we want to do it. We're excited to do it. We're so grateful to be able to do it."
Wow.
And, I've had so many people like that have just been amazing.
That's
And
phenomenal.
yeah, it's really, really cool to see um, people get excited about something and supporting a cause that perhaps they really didn't even know anything about before this race.
Sure.
And then I've had people come up to me that are surgeons in the country that are in charge of surgical departments at really, really premier places and say, "Clark, I want to be a part of your race." I'm like, "Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great." And he says, "My son is 20 and he just had surgery. He has testicular cancer."
Yeah.
And I'll be like, "Well, I'd love to talk to him. I bet he's doing great." But so it's been a lot of fun to kind of coalesce a group of people and raise some awareness and make a big difference for this foundation. It's a grassroots kind of
Yeah.
small organization, and it's trying to cover the country. And we had a meeting, a national meeting out in San Diego recently, and I came out there and gave a talk, an inspirational talk about what I was going to do. But this will help them. This will help build some,
Yeah. It's huge.
some partnerships that will last long after the race.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
And like you said, I mean, you could literally be talking about this for the next five plus years.
Oh yeah, easily,
Yeah.
easily. So just got to go run the miles now, my man.
Get it done. What are you doing wasting time talking to me?
Seriously. I'm going to run twice today, though. I ran 7 this morning. It was 9 degrees. It's like a balmy, like 11 now. So, no, I'm going to run 7 more tonight just to shake the legs a little bit more.
I won't even tell you what the temperature was yesterday here.
Don't. It wouldn't be right. I have friends that are one of the guys who's supporting me is in Hawaii. And he
Yeah.
said, that sometimes on the radio they'll say, "Hey, just want to let everybody know you need to get your sweater out today. It's going to be a little nippy out there. It's going to get down to 74 degrees today." And he'll be like, "74 is cold."
I sent a nice picture yesterday with us walking at the beach to my daughter who's back in Knoxville, and it's like 21 degrees there.
Ugh.
So, It was like
Knoxville's a
72.
fun place to be. Neyland Stadium. I've been there before to watch a game. That was on my bucket list.
Yeah. I'm like you. It's like I try and find things to do. Like
Yeah.
I didn't have enough time. I wanted to go see where Sergeant York was born. I don't know if you know
Okay.
that movie, Gary Cooper,
Yeah.
and because it's just north. It's in between
Right.
Nashville and Knoxville. So I flew into Nashville and drove over, and I'm like, man, if I would have had like 2 more hours, I could have made the trip.
That'd been cool. I
Yeah,
went to see the Volunteers play. I mean, you can relate to this because we're about the same age, but
I'm a little older, but yeah,
it was a quiet day in Neyland Stadium because Rocket Ismail and the Fighting Irish came into town and they laid it on the Volunteers that day. So it started out loud with a lot of Rocky
it,
Top, but at the end it was pretty quiet
not
and
so bad.
sad.
I went to, when last time I flew in, when I went to Madison for the fair, I was there for just over a week because I
Oh
work
wow.
every day. I went to Badger Stadium, and
Yeah,
the guy let me in because I just wanted to go see it, and
sure.
obviously no one was there. I mean, it was empty, empty. And so I'm just kind of like trying to look through the tunnel. And the guy's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Oh, I'm just visiting. I'm actually from Los Angeles, and I just wanted to look at the stadium." He goes, "Ah, come on." So
Oh, that's
he
awesome.
let me go out onto the field right on the corner.
Very
And it's
cool.
like, that's a big stadium when it's empty.
Well, I don't know if this part will be in the podcast, but like my wife went to Madison, and so she's a hardcore Badger,
There you
and
go.
so she would jump up and down in one place for an hour if she heard you say all that.
Yeah,
I like to make fun and go, "It's a Badger that wears a turtleneck." I mean, how intimidating is a Badger in a turtleneck?
not that scary.
I was like, I'm from the SEC. Okay, that's where I grew up, and I know where college football is pro football, and no, they don't want pro football down there. And I remember I used to have that circle. I'm sure you've seen it on the map where it catches Baton Rouge, it goes over, catches Gainesville, gets Athens. And it says like something like 23 of the last 25 years, the national champion has come from this circle.
Yeah. That'd be
It's
good.
pretty
Oh, it's
amazing.
Alabama. Heck.
Now it'll be yeah, it's always definitely getting Tuscaloosa in there,
Yeah.
but it'll be different this year, I think.
See,
We'll
my
see.
family's from Ohio, so I grew up literally an Ohio State fan. But I grew
Sure.
up, my dad, because I'm a little bit older, but I played linebacker. And so my
Oh,
dad said, "You watch Penn State,
yeah,
linebacker you." And I'm like, "All right." So I
yeah,
became and they were an independent, so he didn't mind because they weren't
right.
Big Ten back then.
Sure.
Because he's like, you root for Ohio State and you root for Penn State. And I'm like, all right. And then when they got in the Big Ten, it was like,
Time to cut the cord.
yeah, what do I do? And
Yeah, I remember growing up in Mississippi, and I played like corner, and we would put our pads on a Friday night, and our coach would take us in this old gym, and we would lay down on our backs on this basketball court. I'm sure we destroyed the court,
court, yeah,
and he would play these audios of Joe Paterno
yeah,
telling these stories. And there were always some story like, Penn State was down by 50 and the water boy only had one eye and one leg. And he came over and said, "Coach, I want to go in. I've got some pads here." And he went in and, no one could tackle him. And Penn State won. I mean, they were the most
yeah.
preposterous stories ever, but he was a master storyteller. And
It
we
was.
would lay in that gym and for about we would listen to Joe Paterno tell one after another of these stories of just the will to win coming out on top. And then our coach would, then he would turn the lights on and I think we'd say the Lord's Prayer and then we'd go out there and smoke somebody. It was amazing. And,
Yeah,
but I grew up I remember watching Penn State play Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl when
yeah.
I was in high school. I remember I was at that game and, Bosworth was playing for Oklahoma and they were too much for Penn State that day, I think. But, yeah.
I went to the Penn State there at the Rose Bowl last year, or
Oh, that's cool.
so I went to that. I watched them beat Utah
We'll see, man. It may be a Texas year, but if it's
tonight.
not,
Tonight's
you
the
know,
night.
yeah,
So
it'll be interesting to see, right?
yeah, by the
Hey,
time
I
you get
enjoyed
there,
chatting with you a lot, Pete. Thank you so much for doing this.
hey, good luck,
Thanks.
Godspeed, come back healthy and safe, and don't tell your wife
Let's catch up again, okay?
you got it, bud. I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thanks
Thanks,
a
Clark.
lot.
Talk to you.
Bye bye.